Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Blues Talk. Again, John Dave and myself are going to look back over Leinster's victory against the Quins in the Aviva, all the other European Cup games, and also look forward to our match against Connacht on the weekend. So, boys, pretty massively underwhelming performance.
Well, I'll tell you, if I hadn't been freezing from the cold before the match, I would have been freezing from the cold afterward, because it did nothing to warm either the hands or the cockles. It was just a very poor, mediocre performance. I mean, it's hard to say anything that we haven't said before. We won. We're on track again to get a quarter final. It is what it is.
A few of the former players are coming out, like Drico. I heard on BT, and he was kind of saying, well, maybe some of the supporters are getting a little bit, getting a little bit too cocksure of themselves, and you got to take it that the team is still winning.
I would say yes, and I'd say no. I'd say there's two groups of supporters who are pissed off. There's ones who are genuinely pissed off because we're not playing great rugby, and they're wondering, is the rugby we're playing kind of going to develop into a successful? And that's fair enough. And there's basically the returned Leinsters as well, and I don't care about them.
It's an excellent description, Dave. Yeah.
But no, there are people with genuine concerns about how
Absolutely,
we're playing and whether how we're playing will be successful, or is it a successful methodology? I don't think it's. I think in terms of winning, I think it's just dour enough to do it in a kind of a Don Revie Leeds kind of way,
Warren Gatland, maybe.
Yeah, Gatland ball was never exciting, but it was always effective. And I think the way that the laws are constructed these days, a certain amount of negativity is going to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. But when you say there are two types of people, there's two types of people in all of these
there's
situations.
People, but yeah.
There's people who are criticising and who are knowledgeable about the game, and then there's all the gobshites that you meet in pubs that are, just parroting what they heard from their mate who knows about rugby and saying, "Isn't it a disgrace?" And so
and the problem for the first group. If you like, the people who genuinely have genuine informed concerns about it, is Neil Francis is on their side.
The thing I find
they must be wrong. Is it? Just need to get George Hook in.
Has it ever led us wrong? If we disagree with Frano and Hookie, we're on the right path.
True.
But it's lighthearted, but it doesn't help them.
but like some people say that there's mitigating circumstances. Like the team's in transition. That you've got the likes of O'Driscoll and Cullen leaving, Issa's gone, Joe Schmidt only left a couple of seasons ago, blah, blah, blah. But you look at the other side of the coin and you look at the team that was selected. There was 3 Lions playing, there was 8 or 9 Irish internationals, there was a Springbok and an Australian international. So of the starting 15, 13 of them were internationals. Like very few other, like we slag off, Toulon about buying a team. Like very few other teams in the competition will have that amount of international starting.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not playing to that international standard.
I would say the other side of that, and it's both a positive and a negative. It goes to and against your point, is very few other teams in the competition will have that as many internationals missing.
That's very true too.
Which shows that we have the quality, so we should be doing better. But it shows that there is a mitigating factor, because the guys who would be your starting guys aren't necessarily available. And one thing that's really causes a problem is that, for whatever reason, I don't understand it, because O'Connor has shown faith in them in the past. He doesn't seem to believe that anyone except for Jack McGrath or Mike Ross are capable of locking down that scrum. And those two guys are playing on 3 cylinders from what I can see.
But he brought Bent on with about 3 minutes to go.
Well, in fairness, he put Bent on for the full cast match.
Yeah. Well, see, that's why I'm so confused about it, because I think he believes that Bent has something to offer. He certainly has in the past. But I mean, Mike Ross is a player who's at an age where his resources have to be doled out frugally. And Jack McGrath's been playing an awful lot of rugby.
Yeah.
And he's only young. I mean, this is, there is a certain, for props, there is a certain thing about second season syndrome for props, when guys begin to work you out, and that's how, and then towards the end of the season, hopefully you come on strong, because you learn how to deal with that. But he's in the middle of that at the moment.
Well, that's true. Speaking of props, though, their guy, Joe Marler, had an incredible game, and I thought that he's not going to last. look at his shoulders, and eventually I worked out what it was. He had a massive big lump of padding on his left shoulder, and it made him look like he was all crooked, and you know. And I thought there was something wrong with him, but
The problem was actually with his right shoulder.
it was just it was just the problem.
There's a
padding.
famous story of I think it was a Celtic player
He had a good
who
game.
broke his leg in a cup final, and this was back in in Victorian times when there was no substitutes. And half time he came off and he told the coach to strap up the other leg. So
What a man!
he came out into the pitch and he was on the pitch and the opposition were kicking his other leg.
Very good. Reverse psychology.
But,
Might even be
yeah.
true, that one.
Yeah.
You never know.
But you know, Marner did a very good job. Not always legal, but he always. But I mean, with a prop, I've said it before on this show. You know what's legal for a prop? Anthony can get away with. Mm-hmm. You know,
Well,
and that's as simple as that.
I think he's pretty. He's the real deal. He's the.
He's the real thing.
English
Yeah, he's the real
Keane
thing.
Healy.
Yeah.
He's around the park, ploughing people out of it. He's in the scrum,
And they put a lot of faith
ploughing
in
people out
him
of
by
it.
making him captain.
They made him captain,
in
and
the
he's
absence.
returning their faith because
Oh,
he
no.
was a bit of a head job.
He was,
in the
but you
past.
you could always see there was always that you knew when you were looking at Marlon. I remember seeing him when he was 20 or whatever, 19 or 20 when he first started in that Queen's team. There was beneath the strange haircut and the facial
decent
topiary and the whole lot. You could see that there was there was a real prop under there. Now how far he could go was determined by him, and he hasn't let it stop him.
It doesn't always work making a lunatic captain like Dylan Hartley. Didn't always work when he was captain, but it seems to be working okay for Marler.
He never had the disciplinary issues, the on-field disciplinary issues that Dylan Hartley did.
No, that's true.
I mean, Marner, the red mist never sailed across his eyes the way it did for Hartley. I mean, Hartley's a very good footballer. I mean, Hartley's a good player.
And apparently he's a very nice
and
bloke.
supposed to be a
in
very
real
nice
life.
bloke, but that red mist, I mean, it's a bit like Alan Quinn, and the red mist sinks down and,
Off
you
you
know,
go.
all bets are off. But, you know, the thing is, we won. It's a pity we couldn't keep them the bonus point off them.
Oh God, Dave! I was just looking to
Really
get away with
is,
a win
yeah.
there. You know.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, but the thing is, I mean, this kind of puts at the moment the ball is in their court.
Exactly. They
because
have
of the-
control of the ball.
Yeah, because of the match,
Even-
not the match points, the
Game
head-to-head points
Yeah.
situation. So
And we'll come to the other games and we'll talk a bit more about it then. But just going back to the game, like I thought our pack again came off second best.
Yeah.
With so many internationals, I mean, a few of them played well, but not, you know, you have basic things like
the thing is, nobody's actually playing badly enough. Nobody's going out
to
there.
single them out.
This is the thing. You're looking at Leinster week after week, and you think, "What's going wrong?" And you say it'd be easy if, say, there were 2 or 3 players
who are crap.
who are having absolute stinkers, but they're not. They're not playing well. There's no question, but they're not actually stinking up the place. But the problem is, you get enough guys not hitting the top level, it drags everyone down.
Well, you could see in the body language around the pitch, especially when I didn't get to see much of it back on the telly, but the bits I did see, you could see them kind of walking to rucks, and you know, there was didn't seem to be any passion in them at all. They didn't seem to be wanting to get there now and take somebody apart. They were just kind of, yeah, I'm here, I'm doing my job, I'm doing it reasonably well, but you know, there was no extra 10%.
Well, I thought at the start of the game, we started off on the wrong foot. We started off in our first 6 phases of play. We had 2 knock-ons. We got turned over. We gave away penalties. You know, it's just so inaccurate and lackadaisical. And for a team that's really playing for its life,
yeah,
I wanted to see more from
it
them.
didn't look like it was
just
playing for its life. All right,
like,
yeah.
you know, it just felt like one of the biggest cheers of the night was when they kicked the ball dead.
Yeah.
And you know, it just seemed to get the crowd enthused because the players didn't seem to be getting the crowd enthused.
Well, you know, having said all of that, I don't want to be too negative.
I don't think lackadaisical is probably the wrong word. Lackadaisical indicates a deliberate, if you like, lack of effort. I don't think the players are. I just think that they're not right.
Yeah, there's something. It's very hard to put your finger on. Like, for example, Shane Horgan, I heard say recently that all the way through the 2007 World Cup, none of them really knew what was wrong, and all of them expected that the next game they just pull it together and everything would be grand. And, you know, so even people within the team, I would say, you know, because let's face it, if they could put their finger on it, they bloody change it. You know?
I remember going in. Actually, you talk about the 2007 World Cup. The thing about Ireland were strongly favoured going into that World Cup, and for the first time an Irish team was going into a World Cup. I remember Andrew Trimble being interviewed beforehand. and he was asked what his goals were for the World Cup, and he was saying, "Look, I don't want to sound
win
like
it."
a big-headed, but my goal is to win the World Cup."
Yeah.
And it was
We're all
nice.
saying
It was
that.
great to hear an Irish team actually say that. And then they went in, and we all know what happened with the build-up games, and then obviously the game against Namibia and the game against Georgia, blah blah blah, and it all just fell apart. But there was no indication that was going to happen. Really, I mean, there was no real indication. Not until the warm-up matches kind of.
Yeah, maybe the seeds were sown in Argentina, and they left the first 15 at home. I mean, you don't know, and maybe it's only small things within the psyche of the team itself that
It could be something small, but the thing is, I mean, the reason why Irish teams have been mentally strong over the last, certainly Leinster have been mentally strong over the last 5 years, is because of they've used the sports psychologist, and he's still there. He's still involved with the team. You know, as the same guy. Maybe they need a new guy, but this guy is the premier guy in Ireland, Enda McNulty. So I don't know.
But then, like, you look back and say, just look at Saints absolutely throttled Treviso by 60 odd points.
I knew somebody mentioned that.
Yeah, well, we
We drew with them.
And like Dave, you mentioned last week that they beat us under Joe Smith, but like that was in his third game at the start of when even Mr. Hook came out calling for his head. So
Which kind of proves our point earlier.
but like the thing is that it was only his third game. Like he wasn't beaten subsequently. Now O'Connor's been here 18 months in the team, and it is not. It's not like, and Treviso have massively disimproved than they were 3 years ago.
Treviso aren't the side they were 3 years ago. There's no question of that.
That's absolutely true.
Neither are we.
That's very true.
We're
too.
definitely not. But if you put the two teams together, Harlequins and Leinster, now Harlequins are missing Nick Easter, who's huge for them. Like, that's having that guy Sweel in instead of Nick Easter.
Nick Evans.
Sorry, Nick Evans. Always
Nick-
mix up those names.
We the Harlequins fans staying here, and Nick Evans is their god.
He is, though. I mean, he's fabulous.
Yeah.
Even though he's 107 and, a year or two younger than Nick Easter, who's our other 109-year-old. The guy is so big for him, and your man is so inexperienced, missed a couple of kicks.
Yeah. Like, he's not even their second choice they'd have. I mean,
Boddicker is. If he had been fit, would we have had a hope? But what I was driving at is, if you put our two sides side by side on two pieces of paper, even with them missing Evans and them missing whoever and us missing a rake of players, we should be beaten, like, player for player. We should be kicking their ass, especially at home.
I'm not so certain about that. I mean, Quins are certainly not playing well at all, and they're not playing well in the Pro 12, or in the Aviva Premiership. But they're a decent side. I mean, it's not.
I'm not saying they're not a decent side at all.
The core of the side that won the Premiership 2 years ago, was it? In there, I mean,
I'm saying the exact opposite. In fact,
Yeah,
I'm
right.
saying that they're actually playing as a better sum of their parts than we are as a sum of our parts. Because player for player, we should. If you compare from 15 to 1, we should. By the fact the amount of internationals we have and yada yada yada, we should be beating these guys on paper, and we're not playing as a cohesive unit. We're not. We don't seem to be, for whatever reason. I know a lot of it is put on Matt O'Connor's shoulders, and I'm sure some of it deserves to be put there, but maybe some of it doesn't. But we as fans, we just have to kind of grin and get through this part of it, and hopefully come out the other side of the Six Nations with
the thing is
with
now
our season not in tatters.
It's starting to affect the people who are going through the turnstiles, the general,
Of course it is.
general feel of the place with the supporters and so on. Whether they're the lads who just go to the big games in the Aviva, or whether they're the season ticket holders that go to the majority of matches, there's definitely been a decline. Like, that we haven't sold out the RDS once this season. We haven't. If you look, there was 38. The official attendance at the Aviva, which is always a few thousand less than what was actually through the turnstile, there was 38,500. Over the last number of years, like, we've gone from high 40s down to
Or in fact a sellout.
sellouts, and some of them in Claremont and Bath.
Didn't we sell out last year against Munster? If not the year
Did we sell
before.
out last year? No, I think we sold out the first year. against
First and
Munster.
second year, I think,
I'm not
maybe.
Sure we sold out.
But
Yeah,
anyway,
I
my
mean,
point is, like, that
the-
there's big swathes of green seats in the Aviva.
There's a
Like,
number
I
of
know
factors to be taken into
there's still an
account
awful lot more people going than there would have fitted into the RDS. But the point remains that Leinster are now losing big chunks of cash if they're not getting.
But there's a wide variety of things to be taken into account there. First of all, obviously the rugby isn't good enough to attract people, right? So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, I don't think the marketing team in Leinster's all that crash hot this year. There's been a big turnover in the marketing team. I'll give you an example. We're all talking about all this kind of there's a festering undercurrent, or not. I don't use. There's an undercurrent of dissent, shall we say? In December 2008, January 2009, there was something similar, and the marketing team clamped down on it instantly with lots of viral stuff, getting some positive stories in the paper, getting respected Leinster players to give interviews and rally the troops, as it were. None of that's
But
happened.
in all due respect, we're in a totally different place.
But I'm just saying.
In those years, Dave, we've won about 8 trophies.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is there's various different things you can do. I mean, and I don't. I mean, there's various reasons why. I mean, for example, would you have brought your daughter to that match on Saturday night? No, because you wouldn't have got her home until after 10 o'clock. I mean, that's another factor into it. I mean, parents aren't going. If it's a family event, I mean, and Leinster has been marketed as a family. The other side of the whole Leinstertainment, if you like, thing, has been Leinster bring your as a family event, and that game was useless as a family event.
It was too late.
Because it was too late. So you've got that. I don't think the marketing's up to it at the moment, and I don't think that the rugby is entertaining enough to attract the casual supporter. But it's like I always say, they like us when we win.
Yeah, well, we'll come out the other side of this eventually. It's a matter of when.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the one thing that is constant is the bad luck keeps on coming. We've suffered another fairly bad injury with Rhys Ruddock. Broke his arm. He's out for 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
He's probably been playing the best rugby of a short career, but
Yeah.
he's sensational at the moment.
It is a position though that we have possibly the most cover of every single position in the squad. Like we've probably bet guys who can play 6. We've probably got at least 6. Okay, he's possibly the best of them for sure, but we've still got plenty of resources in the back row. There are other areas of the pitch that if we lost somebody, like if we lose another prop, we're in serious trouble. Even a second row, we'd be in trouble.
If we lose another prop, you're talking about putting another academy guy on the bench, which is.
Yeah, well, we do have a new South African prop.
Yeah, well, I don't
Van
know.
Dijk,
I don't know if he can be used in Europe. Depends on how long his contract is. I think he's.
I don't think he can
I
be
think he's
used
only
in
been
Europe.
signed for 2 months. You have to have a 3-month minimum contract to play in Europe. So.
But that's fine because we don't have to play in Europe for another.
Well, that's true. Yeah. We have
4 weeks.
But what I'm saying is, I mean, if we lose a long-term injury, I mean.
By which time we hope to have Marty Moore back.
Well, we'd hope to have. Might be a week too soon. We
You
hope to
never
have a
know.
lot of guys back a lot quicker than has emerged back in the last while. So no, we are well covered. I mean, there are rumours that Geno will be back for the Connacht match.
There was a few
And
announced
Dave Kearney.
today. Dave Kearney, Straussy, Darcy,
Yeah.
and I believe O'Brien was back training, and they said that he's not back for at least a month.
Yeah. If
He's been
Geno's
back running for a couple of weeks. He's been back. Been turning up to squad training for a couple of weeks at least, but he won't be in contact for.
I'd shift
Quite a
Dominic
while.
Ryan across and
Murph maybe.
Murphy or Jennings, or the only thing is Ryan the line out option that Ruddock was.
Don't see why
if
not.
he's not, maybe Kevin McLaughlin, who certainly would be.
Yeah.
You've got. I mean, the options there
There's plenty of
are
options.
manifold. There's plenty of them.
If we're going to rest our test starters, of which there are now probably only 4 that are fit, Ross, Heaslip, Carney, and Toner. That's pretty much it of our fit players who you'd say are definite starters in the 15. If we're resting those guys, we've got to come up with a plan. Got to put Jordy Murphy at 8 or Jack Conan at 8 or whoever. There are resources to take care of it.
We won't know until the team. See, the thing is, we don't know again because Schmidt is relatively new in the Irish job. We don't know what his attitude to resting guys over Christmas is. What his attitude to bring them together over Christmas. We know that it's going to be a Christmas get together, but we don't know whether it's going to be an on pitch thing or simply a lecture room kind of event.
Will the IRFU enforce a week that you have to rest the guys, or will they leave it up to the provinces, or can you rest 2 here, 4 here, 3 there, or do you have to rest them all the same week? We don't. These are things we don't know the answer
These
to.
are unknown unknowns.
Yeah, so that will come out in the wash over the next 3 weeks.
We did something that we haven't done for a while, which was score a try. I think I read somewhere it was 300 minutes, but Anyway, we did manage to get a nicely worked try off.
Nice little try, yeah.
Yeah, there's 3 actual good phases in this. The first was this attack. The second was the line-out, which was okay, and the third was the scrum, which was also the scrum. Actually, I really liked. We'll talk about that when it comes up. But I was really pleased with how that scrum worked.
Yeah, pity it was the only one.
Yeah.
Or one of the few, shall we say.
No, it was everything you'd want.
Kirshner really did a job on your man as well. He bundled him into touch, and of course they wanted the ball back faster than he wanted to give it as well. But yeah, Kirshner hit him fairly hard and got him into touch on the 5-yard line, which is, you know, that's the kind of thing you want. At least we got a chase on that kick, which was nice. You'll see it here.
Well, in fairness, it wouldn't be the hardest kick in the world to chase now, would it?
But like, they were right up over him, got him into touch, just where you want him.
Most important thing, though,
And we didn't fluff the line out.
in the scrum was that it was textbook off the training ground. So was the turn was right.
Oh yes, we did.
And we did fluff the line out.
That's what I was talking about earlier about the inaccuracies that we're doing. Like we
Yeah.
had a line out 5 meters out.
Cronin is actually, if anyone, I mean, I was talking about guys aren't playing well, aren't playing badly as such. If anyone is coming close to it, it's Cronin, because
Well, he's so good in broken play, but
Yeah.
it's just disappointing
It's-
that he can't
yeah,
get his
but both his
nuts and
primary,
bolts.
both his nuts and his bolts.
If you're Joe Schmidt, you're going to be telling him that you want that shit on top of his nuts.
If you
and
look
bolts.
at see the our winger is coming across. That's dragging their winger across. You can see him
Yeah.
just coming across there. He's not confident about staying wide.
Yeah,
So, and then we get the turn on
decent
the scrum.
shove on them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right shoulder up on the
Yeah.
tight head side, and
And you've got 2 on 1,
boom.
and that is a nice. That's the spicy meatball.
Yeah, we'll take that. That was
Well,
the high point.
That was the high point. But coming back to Cronin, I mean, he's wonderful in the loose. I mean, he's like an extra back. But
Yes.
you're saying about his nuts. His nuts are throwing the ball in. His bolts are hooking it, and neither is working for him at the moment.
Yeah.
Those are 2 huge problems for us, actually.
And it'll be good to have Strauss back, so
Yeah.
at least we can have, like, if his nuts and bolts are not going well, he's a great man to have coming off the bench.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean, that's where he's made all his time for Ireland, where all his Irish caps have come from. And I'm sure he's a pain in his arse coming off the bench, and he's a pain in his arse with people saying, oh, he's a great bench option, you know, he wants to be starting. But, like, while he's having those issues, I think he's having
A bit for
2 hookers of the quality of him and Strauss. Now, I know Brian Byrne is a great prospect and all that, but let's face it, he's a kid.
Yeah.
You know, he's still in the academy. You know, the fact that he's starting at all or playing at all for Leinster is impressive.
both
In a front row position at his age is very impressive. But you know, in a big game, you want to have the like of Strauss and Cronin as your 2 options. And it's to be
Cronin isn't an option.
well, he's a
At the
great
moment,
option
he's
off
not.
the bench.
You see, that's the thing. I mean,
You can carve them up. You bring on Redden, Jennings, and Cronin.
there's
or
an
something
awful
like
lot. There's an awful lot of really good
Late in the
players,
game.
good footballers, playing at hooker in Ireland who have flaws in their game. Varley is a poor thrower and has disciplinary issues. Best is a relatively poor thrower, and Cronin obviously. We discussed. The thing is, certainly with Varley seems to be permanently injured at the moment, but Best at least delivers 75% of the time in out of touch. Cronin isn't doing that at the moment. It's very, very poor from him, and it's something we really have to look at, because
But just
there's been a couple of
going back
we've
to
had a
that
couple
line-out.
so just to finish, we've had a couple of red zone incidents in the last 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, but if you go back even 3 or 4 seasons ago when we played Claremont in Claremont, we had a good 2 or 3 opportunities for lineouts on their line, and we fluffed our lines. Similarly, if you go back to the match there, look at the call. That ball went over the top. Like, unless you're spot on the money, you can't throw the ball 25 meters. It has got to be thrown. You've got a 6'10" individual in the middle of the lineout. Throw it to him. He's going to win it.
And then maul it.
You know, and like
Armagh wasn't looking so tidy though, was it?
But by taking a risk and throwing a ball like that that was miles off where it should have been, like, help the guy out and throw it to people who can catch it. You know.
Yeah, get him a few bankers
Anyway,
to steady him down.
one thing I did want to bring up was it's the first time I've ever heard of it, was Ian Madigan after that little scuffle at the end of the game. He's got a kind of a warning sighting That if he misbehaves over the rest of the tournament, he can suffer a ban.
It's three of these citing warnings or 3 yellow cards means it's an automatic disciplinary hearing, which is the same for a red card. It's an automatic disciplinary hearing. However, the other lad has been cited for doing a Nick Kennedy on Dominic Ryan.
Yeah, wasn't that a bit of a
Is that not the other way around? Nick Kennedy got
doing the Shane Jennings then.
Yeah. Well, neither of them did anything. But anyway,
this time it was.
But it seemed like the two guys, the ref was French clearly, and obviously the TMO was French, and they spoke in English.
I think he was he? Was he Italian or something? I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure. I thought he was French, but I could be.
Possibly.
It could have been Italian. But they spoke to each other in English, and there was definitely a miscommunication because, like the referee was kind of concerned that it was near the eyes, and it was clearly not near the eyes. It was on his chin, and it was more
a fish hook or something.
I think it was close. I think that sometimes referees like to cover themselves just in case, and if it's near to the eye area, then should we give an owl yellow card and let the citing commissioner?
Yeah,
it's kind of the referee's version of kill them all and let God sort them out.
Yeah, well, there was only a couple of minutes left anyway,
so
it didn't
really.
There's
nothing in it.
Well, Nick Kennedy's one that was a 5 and a 7, and that one it was a 5 and a 7 or a 4 and a 7. So just it was the other way around. It was the big guy picking on the little guy, if you can call Dominic Ryan a little guy.
Well, we'll talk about some of the other results and some of the permutations within those groups. So one game was played on Sunday was Claremont against Munster. Like that just looked like an incredible atmosphere down.
The intensity of it was so much higher than our intensity with Ireland.
Yeah, Claremont were really.
I thought Munster, like if they had just scored that try when they nearly scored that try at the beginning, they would have at least tested Claremont
or chased their kicks.
Well, I think testing Claremont might have been bad because I still think there's mental weakness in that Claremont team.
Well, maybe there is, and we would have found that out because if they were 10 points down after 10 minutes, that would have sorted out the mental
I still think that there's still something about that Claremont team. It's not quite. It's neither fish nor good red meat. It's a brilliant team and there's brilliant players in it, and when they're on top of the ground, they're brilliant. But
they don't log it up them.
It's not that they don't like them up. They do like it up them. I mean, that's not the problem with Claremont. Has never been an issue of moral courage. It's always been. It's never been a moral issue in terms of that they're scared to put their bodies where it hurts because they're not.
No,
the problem has always been
top 4 inches.
The top 4 inches. It's not an issue of heart or gut or determination or anything. It's always been the brain does it. They do stupid things at stupid times.
But
always do.
Even to give that penalty away. Like I know that they're probably going to walk away with the group, but at the same time to keep a team like Munster still in the heel of the hunt. Like if they didn't get a bonus point, they're practically gone. Now they've got 10 points in the group. They still have a fighting chance.
Yeah, they've got Saracens up next.
They've got to go away to Saracens, and if they win it, they have an excellent
chance.
Have
Sale at home.
They have an excellent chance. If they don't win it, they're gone. But if they win it, it's in their hands.
They're in one of the situations you can be in, like we were in 2000 and actually back to 2008, 2009. They say it's hard to lose two games and still come out of your group, but there are ways you can do it, and Munster are in one of those situations where they can.
Yeah, absolutely. There's quite a few of the groups that are not actually, that there's 3 in contention. Like there's Munster's group and our group for a start.
Like I think everyone in Ireland was very down on the new format of the Heineken Cup or the Champions Cup, but it actually seems to be quite exciting with the 5 pools because there seems to be a bit more permutations.
I don't know if it's any less or more exciting than the previous years. I mean, what you have is you have an extra runners-up place because
but it's nearly warranted rather than the 2 Italian teams just throwing up two extra places. Like at least now there's 3 or 4 pools that are still with the heel of the hunt with 2 rounds to go.
It tends to make it a bit tenser though, where you've people who are going out to not lose every week rather because the groups are tighter. There's a lot more cagey rugby played rather than free flow and throw the ball around. Let's score 200 tries against Treviso.
One team that did throw the ball around and got caught out was Ulster against Clonettley. Very poor decision by Wilson to try and get that pass away.
They went. It wasn't
on, Dave.
It was an ultra. The whole thing, the last 5 minutes of that match were an ultra clusterfuck for Ulster. Between Pienaar missing. What for Pienaar is a kickable penalty. This isn't Nick Swiel we're talking about. For him to miss that and then to give away that, it was just. I mean, they went from being, hanging on with their fingernails but still in there to being gone. I mean, it's gonna require, a mathematical upset of humongous proportions.
I don't think
There isn't any proportions.
I don't think they can.
They
get
can't.
it.
I think there's still some mathematical way they can do it, but I think
need
it's,
every other group.
Yeah,
to,
I think it needs a series of results so astronomically unlikely that. But
there's only one team coming out of that group. I'd nearly give you my house on that one, because everybody else is so far behind that.
Scarlets and Tigers are
Mathematically-
both on 8.
Yeah, the Scarlets have to play Toulon. Tigers have to go to Ravenhill,
Yeah.
which Ulster will always put up a fight, even if there's nothing in it for them.
and Leicester do not have a pleasant
Record
record there
record
at
there.
all.
No,
No.
they were beaten by 30 odd points once.
Yeah. They've had a couple of bad visits. Their last couple of visits to Ravenhill have been not much fun. But like our group is a real conundrum.
Yeah,
Do we want Quins to beat Wasps? Actually, I don't think so. On balance.
no, I don't. I want it to be in the best way for it always to be is for it to be in your hands, right?
And
for
if
you
Wasps
to
beat
control
Quins,
it.
it's in
If
our
Wasps
hands.
beat Quins, then it's all down to us,
Yeah.
right?
But Wasps have kind of come up on the rails, haven't they? Like they lost their opening
Wasps-
matches, and then they
Wasps-
got two 5 points against Cast.
Yeah, well, Wasps will have to, we'll have to beat Wasps no matter what happens in any of the other matches.
Yeah.
So if
For us, it doesn't change.
exactly if Quins beat Wasps, we'll still have to beat Wasps to catch Quins, and if it goes the other way, we still have to beat Wasps.
Yeah.
So
And there seemed, like we were talking a few weeks ago about their planned move to Coventry. Like it's coming up now. They played their last game in Adams Park, but it was mentioned over the weekend on the TV that for their opening game next weekend,
22,000.
yeah, I think it was 27, but like still a considerable lot more tickets sold than there was or there ever has been in
Sold.
Adams Park.
Sold.
Well,
Well,
given
sold.
away.
Passed on.
under 15's free, and under 21's a tenner, I think.
Yeah, and over 22 is free.
Whatever. But yeah, that's an intriguing pool, really. Our pool to see how it's going to end. If Wasps can possibly raise their game to beat Quins in the Stoop, which
But, I mean, it's not
It's
that unusual. I
possible.
mean, Quins and Wasps
We're
games
right back.
exist to a certain extent, almost like Leinster and Munster games. They exist in their own little bubble because of the history between the clubs. They were once the same club. I mean, it was a long time ago, but these rivalries that go back. I mean, they were once it's not Hampton. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, they were once the same club. So these things have a habit of carrying on the rivalry, and there will be a big rivalry. And Wasps seem to have improved over the last. They've been building up their form in a way that we were saying, hopefully over the thing we can build up their form. That's actually what Wasps have been doing. They've been going quite well recently.
They beat Northampton
Yeah.
at home,
Yeah.
and like not only did they win the two matches against Cast and they took the bonus point, they also took losing bonus points in the other two games, the one in Dublin and
maybe we caught them at the right time for both us and them.
If they lose to Quins, they are all but out of it.
Yeah, but they'll still put up a fight.
They'll still put
against
up.
us.
The English teams always do. If they lose to Quins, no, that's what I'm saying. Why they put up an effort against Quins?
Yeah.
That's a game is essential for them. So, I mean, we want for our own benefit, we want Wasps to win that match, because then all we have to do is
Beat them.
Beat them.
It's a straight shootout.
all we have to do.
Well, we obviously have to beat Cast. Let's not forget that.
Oh yeah.
Providing we beat Cast, it'll be a straight shootout between us. and Wasps.
Whatever about putting out a weakened team at home, which they did. It had a couple of the good players in it, but it was very much a weakened team. There's no chance of any of those guys travelling to Dublin.
Yeah,
Or if they are, it's only to do the hop store.
and somebody was saying that they would play their top team against Quins the following week because
They have a game
they
coming
have
up.
a game. There's actually a game in France the following week.
That might be a certain
the end of
amount
January.
wish fulfillment on our
They're,
part.
they're playing. I think they're playing Toulouse.
Yeah.
at
Well,
home.
they have to get their league form on because they've fallen off the bottom. They're falling off the bottom of the top 14, so they have to get their league form. I don't know if they would do that, but they might work out for us. I wouldn't. I
Wouldn't be
would.
banking on it.
I would almost rather rely on any other result than Castor beating Quins.
Well, no, I wouldn't be relying on them beating Quins, but I'd like to think that they might take.
A losing bonus or a winning a bonus point
Take-
off them.
one other game that took note that I was Glasgow narrowly beaten by Toulouse, but I thought like Glasgow are so close to becoming. a
They
pretty
weren't
good
narrowly
team.
beaten. Glasgow weren't narrowly beaten by
Yeah, I
Toulouse.
watched that game.
The score was narrow.
Score was narrow. Yeah,
Toulouse were far better.
they were.
No, there was a gulf in class. You could see it.
And I'm a bit worried now about Glasgow because that's now a three-way pool. Bath having been humped by Glasgow in Glasgow and beaten at home by Toulouse, and that's their first two games lost exactly the same as Wasps. They came back and dished out a few hidings to Montpellier. Now, I mean, Montpellier are in the same position as Castres. They're in the bottom of their league and they're in shit form, but there's a possibility that Bath can just turn it on. They've got Slam and Sam on the move now. They've got, their ducks seem to be lining up.
Something is going on in Toulouse at the moment. The president of
Toulouse are the only team with 4 wins.
the president of the Association of Toulouse Supporters Groups is planning on, or has, it was either yesterday or today, launching a motion of no confidence in the board at the AGM. What's his name? Guy Noves has made a number of comments in the press, basically saying that everything around the club is shit. There's something going on there.
Except him.
No, there's also there's politicking or financial wheeler dealering going on.
Shenanigans.
There's something going on. But what it seems to have done is, because I've been watching Toulouse and they've been getting better.
Yeah, big time.
Is it seems to have driven the squad together and closer. And that kind of, there was a certain, I don't know, French, attitude, sang-froid to what was going on in around the club. That stopped now. They're all seem to be. They all have
united
the,
them.
yeah. They're all pointing in the same direction. And Noves is back on the sideline, prowling around like a caged tiger. You could see it against Glasgow. Now Glasgow are a very good side and did well, but Toulouse just, you can actually see. It's the first time I've seen it this season. Is that Toulouse were clearly better than Glasgow. Whatever the result might say, Toulouse were much
They
better.
were, and when you look at Nyanga, Dusautoir, and Picamoles, Jesus, that's an animal. Savage back row. They really have the players, and if they get guys like Luke McAllister back fit, and they really have a cracking team.
Boxis, Vincent Clerc,
Oh.
Poitrenaud.
It's all there.
Not Max.
That's what they say.
Mermoz,
It's all that and a bag of crisps.
They have a brilliant team. I mean, the players. I mean, I was watching them. It was funny because there's something that I first noticed back in 2005 and 2006 when we were playing them. They're still doing it. Every single full line out, they're humping up Nyanga at the front for every single line out because he's so light. He only takes one guy, and you have to try and get the ball over him. It's a brilliant tactic. It took Glasgow a while to work it out. No, actually, one thing it does say is that Toulouse are actually a bit more dangerous than anyone anticipated they might be. Last season, remember I was saying last season when that game against Saracens was the death of rugby.
Yeah.
They've recovered from there. They seem to be getting their shit together.
Well, I'm wondering, is there a bit of a shift in the balance of power? Like, for a few years, it seemed to be the Pro 12 teams were, a bit more forceful, I suppose, or sort of more successful. Like, I know we've only
By
played-
Pro 12, you mean Irish?
Yes, well, there was Edinburgh got a bit of a go for a while, but I suppose Irish. But this year, of the 5 groups, 3 of them are headed. Now I know it's only 2/3 of the way through, but 3 of the pools are headed by French clubs. The other 2 are headed by English clubs. The only Pro 12 team is Leinster that have won more games than they've lost. There's a couple on 2-2, but
I think Irish rugby is kind of.
Well, our league has taken a hit from A, the shenanigans in Wales.
Yeah.
B, this whole bullshit over the Champions Cup that we eventually ended up with what the PRL wanted all along. So it's the way the competition is now structured and the way the money is now divided and the way everything is set up has got to favour the French and English teams at the moment, especially the French.
yeah, but no one's got any money yet. No one's got any money.
It also it's not just that.
But they've got it all.
I think the timing is important as well, because Irish rugby is becoming more and more is tapering towards the World Cup. I don't think you can deny that. I think we've seen it. We've seen it in the players that have been signed over the last, let's say, year to 18 months by all the provinces, or the players that haven't been signed, perhaps.
They've all been Irish.
Over the last 18 months, we've seen that next year there's a further reduction, apparently, in the number of
And
foreign players
IQs,
available.
yeah. Going down by one.
Irish rugby is narrowing its focus to almost laser-like precision on that World Cup. So the timing for the Pro 12 in general and Irish rugby in particular, and Wales will be the same because Gatland is the same.
He's at the same.
He'll be starting the same stuff as well. That the Pro 12 is going to be not mothballed, but will certainly be very much tertiary in terms of what the priority for. If you're a professional rugby player in Ireland or Wales, the Pro 12 is way down your list of priorities because the World Cup is so high up.
Always has been though. In fairness.
No, but I know. I'm saying what I'm saying is it's not even there anymore. It'll drop because the World Cup is everything now. Because I think Ireland are about to make their first ever serious attempt on the World Cup, and I think that Ireland are going to
finally get to a semi-final.
I think Ireland are finally going to get to a final.
Hopefully. Well, one great result for Irish rugby was Connacht's win. Now, admittedly, they rested their first 15.
Makes it all the more impressive.
Yeah, exactly. But I presume that they were playing against Bayonne team that had also dropped their first,
probably their second 15. As well. They probably had.
But still, it was a great performance away from home.
No French team likes losing.
I've always had a relatively low opinion of Connacht.
Yeah, we've noticed that, Dave.
Not on the ability of the players, and not on the ability of the team, but on their mindset. I've always thought that they had a certain mindset. That it didn't matter what they did as long as they got in a few digs against the big boys in Limerick, Dublin, and Belfast, and nothing else mattered. That's gone now.
Dublin, anyway.
Yeah, that's gone now. Connacht are focused on what they need to be focused on, which ironically is the Pro 12, and you can see that. I mean, under Mick Bradley or under previous coaches, would they have dropped their entire team for an Amlin Cup game or a Challenge Cup game?
Well, that's seen us in the past that they wouldn't. They would have put
they
would have dropped the team for the game against us.
Possibly.
But the game against us is the more important game for what they want to be and where they want to go.
But you remember about 3 or 4 years ago, they got to the semi-final of the Amlin as it was then. And they put all their eggs into that basket and probably neglected the Pro 12.
It cost them European qualification.
Nobody is going to do that now because you can't get anything out of winning the Amlin anymore, or the whatever you want to call it, the Challenge Cup.
Something has to be done with that. Some kind of carrot has to be introduced into the mix.
Pat Lam, however, seems to be playing a blinder over there. He's about to allegedly sign a 3-year contract with them. He seems to be making all the right noises, to me anyway, and that it's all on a mindset level. It's like he's a bit like Joe Schmidt, where they seem to be talking about the performance. Like, don't think about the result. Think about what you're doing in the game. Think about your performance. Think about the team's performance, how they want to play the game, playing their game, implementing their game plan. And if you do all of those things, the win will happen. Rather than, we have to go out and win this game, lads.
But
I don't care how you do it, just win it.
I'd also say that, Joe
seems to be what
Joe Schmidt, Michael Cheika,
we're doing.
Declan Kidney, Rob Penny, Tony McGann, Brian McLaughlin, whoever else is up there, is looking at what's happening. Mark Hanscom is looking at what's happening in Connacht and going, Pat, things change. It's not all blacks and Super 12 signings, because eventually the IRFU will come in and say something to you.
They will, of course.
But the question for Pat Lam is how he reacts. I think he's done a very good job, but the question would be how he reacts if, say, for example, Connacht don't make the Champions Cup next season. How he reacts when Marmion is sent to Belfast or Henshaw is sent up to Dublin, and that's the real test, because that's
down to Limerick.
But that's the real test, you see. And
but you see,
he's in a lucky position. He's dealt with what, to a certain extent, he's in a position that coaches north, south, and east have had to deal with the benevolent IRFU. Sometimes you have to deal with the maleficent IRFU.
I would argue that it's in the IRFU's. I would argue that it's in the IRFU's interest
to broaden
have Connacht strand.
Yeah.
If they've got 4 teams getting into the Champions Cup,
yeah,
or even 4 teams playing very, very well in the Rabo and playing at a high.
But what we see is the IRFU doing what's in their benefit, and what they see is what's in their benefit. Can sometimes be different things.
Possibly, but like the young guy came on and scored on his debut in under 20.
Caelan
Blade, and he's from Galway. Like, he's not like he's some lad that they picked up that was out of school in Dublin or plays for Lansdowne.
Connacht spent an awful lot of their effort over the years in schools and youth rugby, and that's really paying dividends now.
Certainly is.
Is it St. Tiernick's is the big rugby school in the province? Has been very successful. Obviously, it's won a lot of Connacht Senior Cups, but it's been very successful in challenge matches against the big schools in Leinster, Munster, and Ulster as well. So it's the groundwork is there. You need a strong schools base. You need a strong club base to develop players, to try out enough players. Because if you've got 100 players at your base, you're maybe only going to get 2 or 3 are good enough to get into your professional side. So what you need to do is widen your base all the time, so your pyramid is bigger, and that's what Connacht have done. They, to a certain extent, their development province years helped them because they had such limited resources. They had to focus on the grassroots of the game in the province, and that's paying dividends now. Not just in the playing staff, but also in what's happening off the field.
And they're now at the level. If you look, it's gone through all the sides. It's Munster. You had your Langfords or your Jim Williams. Your
and your Langford.
Christian Cullens. I'm talking about big names.
Oh, big names. Sorry, yeah.
You had your Christian Cullens, your Jim Williams, your Dougie Howletts along the way. All of these guys came in when Munster was still on the up. And I suppose from an IRS FU perspective, you went, right, that's Munster, won a few Heineken Cups. Who's next? Leinster, right? They give them a few Rocky Elsams, Isan Asewas, etc.
But funny enough, CJ was the star side of that.
He was, yeah. I just didn't mention him for obvious reasons. And then you had Ulster with your Pienaars, Afoas, Johan Mullers. Now that Leinster are at the stage where they're winning Heineken Cups, let's get Ulster up to the next. And because Ulster were muck from about 2006.
They were muck from 2000.
Yeah.
Well, they won the Magnus League in 2000.
No, in Europe.
They never came out of their group.
No, that's true. Not since they won it. But what I mean is, they went into a doldrum post winning that last Celtic League. They really went. They ended up down 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier with the time Connacht nearly pipped them.
Scrambling for the third
they were
place,
scrambling for the third place. So Ulster then get to a Heineken Cup final. And develop and have come out of their group. They won't do it this year, but they've come out of their group for the last few years. So now we'll turn the focus to Connacht. So that makes perfect sense to me if you're the IRFU to get all of the teams and now look at Connacht with their Bundy Ekis, their Mills Mullyanes, their Tom McCartneys, their Jay Keenans all coming in. Which is brilliant for and really is growing the province and rugby in the province.
I was just looking back at previous results against Leinster and Connacht earlier on today.
I did that the other day as well.
And beside the result, there was obviously the attendance. Now I know that some of them are just pick a figure out of the air, but some of them were very low. And I'm talking about ones that were in Donnybrook, 2,500, 3,000, which is considerably less than what regularly turns up now at the showground, at sports grounds. Which is a phenomenal growth for Connacht Rugby, that they're actually getting a bigger crowd by nearly twice as much as we used to get in Leinster.
I think it should be also noted that Connacht were never a big draw for. I mean, even in recent years. Although I
it's fine, Dave, but there was.
I would suggest that there should be a big crowd on Friday because there's
15,000 tickets sold now.
There should be more. Mills Mullyanes is playing. I mean, for God's sake, if you want to see this guy in the flesh, I mean, it could be your last opportunity to do so.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a rugby fan and you have an opportunity to see Mills Mullyanes play, you take it, or you're not a rugby fan.
That leads us on very nicely to our game on Friday, which with a 6-day turnaround.
Well, of course, they already beat us this season.
They've already beaten us. They haven't beaten us in Dublin. I think they've beaten us once in Dublin in 2002.
They should have probably won last season. If you remember, we scored a penalty try on the 77th minute, where I think we gave where they conceded 18 penalties.
Yeah.
Connacht have been very upset by some of the refereeing over the last 4-5 years in particular. There have been a couple of games where
they were close,
where they feel that the refereeing has not been of their favour. Some of it's certainly true. Some of it
they have a point on some of it, definitely.
Some of it's certainly true. Some of it not quite so much. But it'll be interesting to see. Does anyone know who's appointed for ref?
No.
It'd be interesting to see who is. I think it'll be a good game. I think the teams will be close. I think. You see, the problem is predicting this game is harder than even normal because we don't know. Not only do we not know who's fit or not fit, we don't know who's even available.
Rested or not rested.
We don't know. I mean, we could pick a team based on the most accurate information available to us this minute, and
it'll be dead wrong.
8 of those guys will be unavailable for selection. You know, so it makes it very hard to to kind of predict what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And the
One thing
relative strengths
one
of
thing
the
we can
teams.
say is that it's going to be
Currently
an
relative
incredible.
form.
It's another pressure cooker game for both the team and O'Connor. Like
Yeah.
we've had, obviously 2 very important Heineken or European Cup games in the last couple of weeks. Now we've got 3. We're starting into a period of 3
Interpros.
interpros, where there's obviously the bragging rights. We're in 5th place. Ulster are. Plays behind. Sorry, Ulster plays ahead of us, and Connacht are plays behind us. There's only a point in it between ourselves and Connacht, so there's a lots of variables in
The
there
top
that's
4
adding more and more pressure to
The
the
see,
top
the thing
4
is,
are all playing
You know
each
what?
other
You know
as
what I
well.
say about pressure.
It's for
Mixed diamonds.
Pressure makes diamonds, and the diamond at the end of this is at the end of this Christmas period, we could be top of the league.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
that's
this
what, if you're a player, that's what you're looking at. You're going, okay, there's my goals.
Well, just some of the other fixtures. One plays 3. Munster play Glasgow,
Glasgow.
and then
In
Osprey
Glasgow.
in Glasgow, and Ulster play Ospreys.
Yeah. It's an ideal time to beat Connacht and go third.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
So people always say, "Oh, it's a real high pressure time." Good,
Rather than lose to them and go 6th, which is what would happen.
because
So,
no matter who the coach is, no matter how the team is playing, for teams to win what Leinster have won, for the Leinster players who have won both for Leinster and for Ireland, this is the time you want to be a player. This is the time that these guys rise to the top. This is why they are what they are. So,
certainly it's there for them.
yeah.
And I remember actually writing a piece for the blog on Blues Talk about after we lost to Munster and saying, we've now, before we meet Munster again, we've got 9 games, and the only possible excusable loss would be one of the Heineken matches, like probably away to Quins. And as it turns out, barring the draw in Treviso, that's pretty much what's happened. We won all the rest of our HC games, and we did lose the Quins game away, unfortunately. So we're probably a point. We got 3 points out of the Treviso games. We're probably a point off what I was kind of saying, well, not predicting, but saying would be acceptable. Now, I wasn't thinking that we'd be going into this week crapping ourselves about playing Connacht, because they haven't beaten us since 2002 in Dublin. But and I just hope we're coming out of this period of games with a big smile on our face, rather than
Well, this has been
make or break.
This has been the period over probably the last 3 seasons where
We've done really well.
we were kind of in a similar enough position. We were just hovering at in the playoffs or just below them.
I'd love to actually have a look where we were, say, over the last 5 or 6 years that we've been at this point. I'd say we've been pretty much.
I wouldn't say we're too far off.
Yeah, I'd
We'll
say
do that.
4th, 5th, 6th every year. I'd say one of those 3 anyway.
And it has been over the Christmas period. And even though I remember a couple of seasons ago we were beaten in Ulster.
Mm-hmm.
Were we beaten? Yeah. And we played very poor, and again there was a brutal season so far, because we were pretty much knocked out of the Heineken Cup with the 2 defeats to Claremont, and then we lose
Ulster.
to Ulster up in Ravenhill.
Doom,
And it's like,
August
oh
Gloom.
God! But then over the January and the Six Nations period, we seemed to pull it together, but it was the core of the Pro 12 squad rather than the international squad that seemed to pull it together.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, those lads seem to, or the equivalent of them this season, don't seem to be playing.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because I think that those guys who were the Pro 12 squad back then are the guys who won't be available to us, because
Some of them,
they're your Dave Carneys, your Fergus McFaddens, your Ian Madigans, your a lot of even maybe Noel Reid. Owen O'Malley's gone. A lot
Jack
of
McGrath's, your Marty Moores,
they won't be.
lads,
They just won't be there, because that was one of the reasons why we were so successful, was because we had 40 international class players. We don't have that now, or maybe we don't. Maybe we do, but we don't have them available to us now.
Maybe some of them have migrated up to the international.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, you see. So sometimes, it's the peaks and troughs of the unique way Irish rugby is funded, and it's the advantage of it. It's the fact that it gives us the opportunity to have those players in the first place. Because if we weren't being funded by the Irish, we wouldn't. So anyway, but So the question is the group that's the next Owen O'Malley's, the next Fergus McFadden, the next Dave Carney's, the next Ian Madigans, are they? I think that
But this
there's
is their chance to shine.
Well, that's it. You see, I think the problem is that those guys aren't in the senior squad yet.
Mm-hmm.
I said it before. I think that the next group of great homegrown players are in years 1 and 2 in the academy.
And I saw quite a few of them on Saturday afternoon.
I think they're just, maybe 1 year off, been ready for it. I think your Cathal Marshes, your Billy Dardish, your Cian Kelleher's, your Adam Burns, your Gary Ringroses, your Tom Daly's. I mean, these names are great names. I mean, it's a very exciting thing if you think about it. We're looking forward to these guys coming into the senior team. So
I think Tom Daly's injured because he was in the stands.
But a very exciting player.
But maybe it's a bit too soon to be relying on those to win us a Pro 12.
Oh, it is. You see, that's
Absolutely.
the thing. That's the. As
They're
best
not
you
that
can,
far away. Some of them, like Cian Kelleher, scored a hat trick.
Yeah.
We were calling him can't pass, won't pass, doesn't need to pass.
Yeah. Well, I would have thought
Because
that.
he just bloody scored.
I would have thought that
Um,
in any other year, maybe 2 years ago, maybe even a year ago, there would have been a certain loosening of the IRFU, maybe not checkbook, but restrictions on who we could sign, to allow us to fill the gap. Because you peak and you trough, and what you do is if you in that trough period when you've got a kind of a gap between the senior team and the young players are a bit too young, you fill them in with a few well-chosen foreigners, but because of the World Cup, maybe we're not getting that opportunity to fill that in.
Yeah.
So maybe our
Maybe
trough
we're
is deeper than we think it is.
Maybe we're just waiting and keeping our powder dry till after the World Cup. Then it's going to be 4 years till the next cycle, so maybe the focus won't be as lasered on the World Cup. And it's then that they can say, right, well, there's a glut of players that are coming up north from New Zealand, South Africa, Australia. Obviously, some of them are going to be sucked up to the French
That
clubs.
is very poor value out there.
Yeah.
I mean, the shopping isn't great.
But that's because the French are throwing money at anybody
French
who's got a Kiwi passport.
That's it. But we've always done well in attracting guys to Ireland anyway, because we have a number of attractions. One is, it's Ireland.
Language.
I was going to say, one is it's Ireland, and we have a good reputation in New Zealand and Australia as a place to go and play, and South Africa in particular, place to go and play. And the other is language.
Mm-hmm.
We can attract South Africans because you can speak English and you can ring your mum without having to get her out of bed, and we can attract Kiwis because it's just like being home. We've even got the same rain, and Australians quite like Ireland because we've got good beer. So but we've always done quite well. We've always attracted some fairly premium players,
And then,
regardless of money.
all right, boys. Well, thanks a million, and thanks a million for watching. Cheers.